their newborn grays dreaming music box ballerinas. And regarding el tema on how el is to end in o, la is to end in a, there is this, el dilema, el drama. Some have broken the rules. El problema is that these crossed over, el día, el aroma, el agua, el poema, el idioma. El chandelier's edge of lake, mineral smell of still water, the poem, a pebble in the quiet reeds. Halo of astroturf torches and fringed skirts trailing the underworld of fat doves and soccer balls kicked into the neighbor's yard. And because Ah stood at the front with a glint in her eye, El Águila, El Ala, also sailed across the border, even El Alma. Half man, half horse, with sticks of lightning, he killed the deer, monkeys, birds. Our children stared with eyes round and dark as the eyes of deer. But oh, la mano is a raised hand. Eagle-eyed, her words sweep like a wing across the white page. When there is more than one la, we reclaim las aguas, las alas, las almas. So I've been writing a lot about art while I've been in quarantine these past 2 months, and also consuming a lot of art, movies and books, but really making an effort to produce art as well. Really, I think it's art that's kept me connected and able to keep a balance. And I mean art in all of its expressions, cooking, moving my body through yoga, thanks to Catherine, and also going back to Victorian times almost, because I'm doing a lot of embroidery and watercolors, and of course, writing. I wrote this poem as a response to a show we saw at the Museo Tamayo in Mexico City, and also based on a few conversations that I've had with my friend and business partner, Lucia. As mothers and wives and daughters and sisters, we have so many roles. And every now and then we need to check in with our role as human beings. Both of us have been impacted by death in the last year. Her husband died in a tragic bike accident, and my father of cancer in December. So the idea of what's left after one has died is something that we spend a lot of time talking about. This is a poem called After the Artist Who Paints with Water on Hot Cement. Consider this: a girl, age 9, tight-roping a spiked iron fence that borders the shaded yard of her dead grandmother's house, overlooking a ravine pitted with fallen fruit. Swirling around her balancing body, flamboyant blossoms in gusts of wind in the garden. Only she is there to witness red glutting the eaves, red swept into runnels. You wondered if the reward is in the process, the piecemeal understanding of the jigsaw, the swimming pointillism of remembrance. After seeing the artist who paints with water on hot cement, you felt your chest cut open, parted softly like a wet book, the framed days of a life left to hem and haw over, the quiet contradiction of figures blazing and fading on hot cement. We can give no precise indication as to when art begins or dies away. It's not that the girl couldn't conceive a fall, or whether the moment was real or imagined. That blazing and fading, never captured by lens or even in the footsteps of this poem. That girl is me, perhaps sometimes you, heel to toe, foot over foot, on a high wire of spikes, watching blooms fall into the ravine. There is the art, there, the red blooms ebbing downriver. So Let me preface this next poem by saying that I miss and I love my husband, but this next poem is not a love poem. It's a poem dedicated to all those who have been cooped up with the people they love and all of those tussles that take place as we try to achieve that fine balance in marriage and home. This is a poem about instinct and survival. Mama Taquasin. It's the middle of the night, and there's the creaking heft of a creature, the scabbering of nails in the crawl space above our bedroom. We'd fallen asleep angry. You'd raised your voice and said curse words in front of our daughter, slammed the door. I'd felt in the pit of my stomach a clawed animal digging in. All these nights, I lay sleepless while you snored at my side. But this is no dream, this thing scrambling above us, and now I'm wide awake, gauging the animal's weight, and wondering if the ceiling is enough to contain it. Was this the possum that weeks ago knocked over my orchid pots, that hid in the palms and ate their red rosary of seeds, that finally the gardener caught by the scruff of its neck? I'd begged for them not to kill it, to instead set it free at the corner park and let it live where nothing would chase it. But there, in the grip of a gloved hand, the animal's pebble eyes were flat back, black, its long snout hanging slack and lined with sharp teeth, and I thought it was dead already. But when I stepped closer, pinned to its white underbelly were 6 squirming pink babies who'd not yet learned to play dead. Now, above our bedroom, nails clatter, and I imagine the possum ripping out wires, clawing up plaster. How was it the possum returned to our yard, managed to escape our husky who'd recently torn apart our daughter's pet rabbit, to scamper up the palm trees and across the one frond arcing over the roof and find the broken clay tile that leads to the crawl space above our heads? To stay inert was also a choice and an action. When my mother got married, my great aunt gave her one piece of advice, which was passed down to me. A veces hay que hacerse la inútil. Don't be so quick to resolve everything. No seas tan arrecha, or you'll never get a break. My husband sits up in bed and asks, "What's that noise?" I wish for that possum, mother, to dig in, to make a den in that house we've just sold. Her enterprise disturbs you, husband. You call out my name, and I stay silent. So I found this book in my mom and dad's library when I was packing up our childhood home. I'm going to project here. It's an essay by Seneca, the originator, the father of Stoicism. And the pages were kind of falling out, so I decided to take this opportunity and make a blackout poetry exercise. The pages had these highlighted passages, and so I decided I was going to work around them, stitching out the words and leaving other words uncovered to form another found poem. My father was a Stoic, and those who know me know that I don't let loose too often and that I don't cry easy. I'm not a hugger. It's really difficult for me to be silly or vulnerable because I always like to be in control. So thinking about all of this, I wrote this poem. It also has a lot of Spanish, but you can basically work around the meanings. I prided myself on being aguantadora. As a verb shoring up, not the verb keening, as in to cry. Entre más doy, más tengo. Entre más agua entrego, más se llena la fuente. Tengo sed, drink the vinegar. Prayer is a call and response, dear sister. Press the wafer to your tongue, tilt the cup, or pass a thorny rope through your tongue. There will be a scroll of blood to burn. Al exhalar, I hear my name. Breathe through the pain to get to something good. How do we learn that? Birth, yes, birth. Or our mouths clenched on a rope of muscle. When moved to ecstasy or despair, our mouths only know how to make round sounds. Our lips puckered and twisted into ovals, ellipses, all forms of circles. A howl knows how to empty a body, a cenote, a cave. Dear sister, all things dark and carved out, water hollowing over a course of decades, land masses made in duress. In this, my role is seawall, resist and let it come. Al exhalar, I hear my name. I hear this phrase often. He llorado lo que no está escrito. And I hold my shoulder firm against the surge. A hammer to a finger reveals our mother tongue. We say ow or I, and silently we count with our lips in our language, cut with the deepest grooves. Pain as something we need to cross through, as a threshold, as it is sometimes a car peeling out of a driveway, white pebbles striking bare shins, one sharp rock, dear sister. How it could also be a pebble in a shoe, click of stone on stone, sting of stone on skin. I skidded along that edge, daughter, mother, woman. I was a stone set against pain, and she threw herself at my feet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was beautiful. Now we're going to turn it over to Jen. And she's going to lead us through a little Q&A in the remaining 5 minutes that we have left. Maybe she's left the building. I don't know. So Carrie, would you like to join me and we'll do a quick Q&A? It's either traffic or connectivity, you know? One of the things. That was just a stunning reading. Thank you so much for really bringing your best to swim. And I know a lot of those poems were new or you haven't read them before. So there was a lot of vulnerability at stake. So I want to talk just first, Jen, you're back. Well, she's almost back. Let's talk about what you've been doing with writing during quarantine. I know, Alex, you mentioned that you have been working on some poems. Mia, has it been a fertile time for you? Or how have you balanced, any, anxieties with creativity? That's kind of an interesting place to start.
Well, I've been much more inspired to work on essays and prose in terms of thinking about finding not just meaning, but finding connections between what's going on inside of me and then what's going on out in the world. So I felt compelled to write, but really kind of lyric essays in terms of playing with imagery and ideas and not so much attention to the line. So that's been my experience so far.
Oh, it's really interesting.
Lots of notes as always.
So basically your writing has, kind of changed form a little bit during this time.
Definitely.
Yeah,
yes.
Your relationship to the line has expanded.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. How about you, Alex? I think you're on mute.
I got it.
Unmute you. Okay.
I've kind of taken this time as a forced or self-imposed writing residency, because when am I ever going to have these 2 months? And I think at the beginning, I spent a lot of time feeling guilty about being away from my husband and kids and, sort of being jacked up with anxiety about all of that. And then I said, okay, well, I really have to make the most of this time. And so I think that really trying to balance that being productive and contemplative at the same time has helped me to just gotta give order to my days. Of course, there's days I feel like doing nothing, so I don't force myself to do it every day, but yeah, I've been writing a lot. I didn't mention, I forgot to mention actually, that the first 2 poems that I read were from my book Matria, and that the last 2 poems that I read are fresh, written in the last month.
Okay, so very fresh.
I'm back.
Oh, good. Welcome back.
Thank you. My internet's a little spotty today because we've had some work done on my house. But I do have a question for. Oh, Cynthia disappeared again. I do have a question for Mia, if you can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I read Mia's wonderful book, Fable of the Paddle Sack Child, in manuscript format before seeing any of the illustrations, which are lovely. So how much input, Mia, did you have with the illustrator? How did both of you navigate that collaboration? Did you have any specific images that you definitely wanted to appear in the book? These are excellent questions, I think.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Great questions. It was a very collaborative process, and Nereida, who's here in the chat, I believe, is not an illustrator by trade. She's an artist who works in many sculpture and many different media. So I sent her the manuscript just kind of as a friend, because Nereida's a visual artist who loves books, who loves to read, who creates sculptures from books, who paints books, and she just has a love for reading and books. So I sent her the manuscript kind of secretly hoping she might be inspired, but not pushing it.
Aren't we always secretly hoping those things?
That's true. And she was. She sent me, immediately she sent a sketch in response. And I was like, do you want to collaborate? And she said yes. And we had like many conversations back and forth about, my idea of how I imagined the different characters, what she imagined, and it was like a beautiful conversation with her. And
in the end, though, did you say like there are certain scenes that you needed to have illustrated, or was it sort of like, I'll give you free reign, and then if there's something we need to talk about, we'll talk about it after? Yeah,
it was very free reign, but I think and she did a lot more artwork than what appears in the book. And so in the end, there were a couple of things like, wow, this seems like a really important moment. I feel like we need to have a visual with it. And luckily she had done so much, because she's very prolific, that it was more like hard to like decide what not to put in. I wanted to put in like so many things. So, but yeah.
Mention here too that all of that artwork is for sale, right?
All of that artwork is for sale, and she can add her website, or I'll add her website to the chat as well. And
yeah, add her website to the chat. Her artwork is really lovely, and it's obviously very complementary to your work. But when you have two artists working together, I think it's very important that it's copacetic to each other. And this is I think it makes a very magical book.
Yeah, thank you. And I do want to add, like, what that last piece with the La Travesía, that's like one of her original paintings. And even between what you've seen in the images and that one piece of work, that's like, a pinky nail in the whole body of Nereida's work. I mean, her paintings are expansive and very eclectic, and yeah, I definitely will put her website up for people to check out the work, because it's really amazing. That's a great question.
Alex, you also said that you are using a lot of art to get through this time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly, connected with artists and seeing their production. And I mean, I meant also just connected with art in the sense of consuming it as we all have been in the past few days, also just like movies and books. And then, of course, trying to do a little something on my own. But um, I think that it's kind of like a strange thing because everybody's seen those posts where they say like, what I realized after all of this is that I can live without X amount of things, but that the things that we really can't live without are the products of creativity, right? Like I think that so many of us have found real sense of shelter and peace and balance spending time with the art that has been created. So yes, for me, it has been essential.
In the piece, but I don't know, I missed those two questions while I was trying to get my internet back up, but the piece behind you.
Oh yeah.
Is
I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's a Salvadoran artist. His name is Chilin. And it's these women doing kind of like an offering, which is also very timely because yesterday was May 3rd, Dia de la Cruz. And in El Salvador, the way that we celebrate it is kind of like the beginning of the harvest season, spring, and they take a tree branch from a tree called quiote, and here in, oh my God, I'm forgetting what it's called. And I've been seeing them on bike rides, but they look beautiful. Like they're just cleanly shaved legs. If somebody knows, throw it out in the chat and I'll say it if I remember. But they take the branches of this tree and they make a cross, and they'll do sort of like paper cutout garlands and put fruit out around the altar. And that's what they do every May 3rd in El Salvador. And it's sort of like replicating that sort of offering of women.
So very timely for now.
Yeah, it belongs to my grandmother. I'm not at home. I don't have anything. This necklace is borrowed. Also, it's my cousin Maria Elena lent it to me, and it's these little Sacred Hearts of Jesus, of the Milagros that they do in the retablos in churches when they're thanking God for a broken heart or a heart that has some sort of health problem or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we've all learned to live without certain things, but we know that we now cannot live without statement necklaces.
Yep.
So anybody else have any questions that they want to ask that they can send to me before we close out for the evening? Otherwise, I'm going to toss it to Carrie. Wrap up. Okay. Carrie, it's all you. Say
well,
who's going to
thank you so much to all of you for being here. Mia and Alex, your readings were very powerful and beautiful, and I'm very happy to have been part of the audience. Thank you as well to Betsy and FIU Urban Studios, to Miami-Dade County Department of Cultural Affairs, and to all of you, the viewers, for being here and sharing this moment of connection and community with us here at SWIM. I just want to remind everyone that there is a transcript of the closed captioning that was available tonight. And if you want it, you need to download it before you exit the Zoom. If you want to access it later through Facebook Live, you can also do that as well. And I think I'm going to be doing that a little later to listen to these wonderful women read again. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And